Hello and welcome to Shadow Dancing with Jen Marie. I am a metanoia mentor up here in Alaska, and I'm doing this series in partnership with Stag and Moon. I put out new videos every Thursday, so go ahead and subscribe so that you can follow along. If you have any questions, post them below. I'll do my best to answer any questions that you might have. I'm hoping that you have a lot of questions. This is a really big topic and there's a whole lot going on. So my first videos are all about kind of introductory stuff, and I will dive in deeper as we move along. I started taking a little bit of coaching to do these videos better. I still don't know how to do any video editing, so it's very authentic, and I kind of like that. I might stick with it if it's not too horribly awkward for everyone. I mean, I'm cool with it if you are, but I do have I'm a total list maker, so I have a list so that I can stay on track and not get too lost in my thoughts and wanderings, because that happens. So this week we're talking about social conditioning. It is so when we are born into planet Earth, we are all born perfect and undistorted and exactly our true essence, right? So there isn't any influence at all. But because we're human, our lives depend on our social interaction. It's been that way. That's how we've survived up until modern times. Your ability to get housing and food and affection is very dependent on your social status. And so through generations, we have been taught how to fit in. Well, the problem with that is that these coping mechanisms, these ways of fitting in, completely deter us from who we really are. And it makes it to where we're fractured inside. We've got all these parts and pieces of us that we are either ashamed of or are completely clueless because we've been conditioned so heavily to reject those parts. So a big part of shadow work is uncovering all of those places that has happened, right? So I'm trying to think of a really good example, and there's just so many, right? Anything that has been defined as good or bad, it's completely culturally dependent. So what is good and bad in one culture isn't good or bad in another culture, and it's just really messy. It gets really messy. And in order for us to live a life of purpose and to live a life of fully engaged and in alignment with our own personal power, we have to get to know who that person is. And so, okay, back to an example. See the whole wandering thing? Yay! Maybe I should look at my notes. All right, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. All right. So when we are socially conditioned, what happens is, so imagine you as a child, right? And you are playing with a toy, and your sibling comes up and wants that toy, and you're like, no, I'm not done playing with that toy, right? In your head, you're thinking this, and you say no, but your parents are like, no, you need to share. You need to be good and you need to share that toy. And so you do that, and you're taught at a very young age that your needs are kind of backburnered for other people's needs, right? And what that does is it gets you into this mind cycle of not martyrdom so much, but this practice of not considering your needs as important as other needs. It just compounds. You see how it gets just bigger and bigger? Another way that was actually just explained in a Teal Swan video this week that I really liked. So there's how she explained it was like this girl growing up in like the South, right? And she is taught, and she's actually very, very feminine and bubbly and sweet, but she was born into a family that valued like grit and determination, and anything that didn't align with that grit and determination was considered bad. And so she was taught her whole life that being feminine and bubbly was a bad thing, and taught that being like hard and like grit was a good thing. And so here she is an adult, and she feels like split because there's a part of her that is feminine and bubbly, but her whole life she's been taught that it was a bad thing. And so she ends up living a life where she's never fully realized and never fully embracing who she is. And she doesn't feel like she is loved for who she is because she's always trying to be something that she's not. Do you see how it gets really tricky there? Same thing with like a little boy. This is another example that she did. So a little boy who their family valued him as a helper, right? And every time he was a helper and a good helper, he got praise. And every time he didn't want to help, he was rejected. And so that put him into this cycle of rejecting his own needs and being a helper and needing to keep busy helping. And that's where all of his value was put in, not in who he was, but his ability to help others. And so anytime that he wasn't in a position to where he could do that, he felt like he had no value. So I mean, the possibilities around this. I mean, this happens so much, and this is a really good time to ask questions, because I'll be able to kind of explain it in a way that is meaningful to you, maybe. So yeah, ask questions if you have questions about it. But that's what social conditioning is, and it gets really messy really, really quick. And we have so many layers of this, and peeling apart those layers is really key to this particular aspect of shadow work. And it's really important that you do. A good practice for this is anytime, so what I do, and it's funny to hear people's reactions, but when they say, "Oh, you're so good," I'm like, "Oh, what does that mean? What do you mean by I'm a good person?" Right? And I force other people to define it just because I'm curious as to what it is that they see that triggers that I'm a good person or I'm a bad person kind of stuff. Also, any time that I'm trying to think. Anytime that life brings up like shame, anytime that I feel ashamed, I ask myself, well, why am I feeling ashamed? Where does this come from? Where did I learn that this was shameful? Is it really shameful, or was it just something that I was taught was shameful? Do you see how that is? A lot of shadow work is asking yourself questions. A lot of shadow work is just bringing awareness to your feelings and your thoughts and your beliefs about something. So yeah, social conditioning. There we go. Again, if you have questions, go ahead and ask them. I'm going to refer to my list to make sure that I haven't forgotten anything. I think I covered everything that I wanted to kind of touch on. Thank you so much for taking this time to watch these videos. Again, if you want to continue to see this content, go ahead and follow, subscribe, do all of that stuff that you need to do so that you can get notifications when we do post new videos every Thursday. Yeah. if you want private sessions are available. Go ahead and send us a message and we will let you know what the rates are and let you know kind of how that works. Again, thank you so much and have a great week.